of Spaces in Between was conceptualized in 2021 during the third lockdown. And I decided to spend time conceptualizing an art exhibition instead of eating every day.
That's right. We're here today for another session of Sesi Seni of the Spaces in Between. We have three individuals who helped put this wonderful two cities interstate event happening right here at the Hidden Gallery. We have one of Penang's best curators, Gabriel, and we have Wanida, who is from Hidden. She's the manager of the gallery, and all the way from Kuala Lumpur, we have Desmond Tong from ZHAN Art Gallery. Let's give them a big round of applause. Ivan, we're going to start with you. I mean, I heard a lot of stories last night during the opening of like how you came about to start off this of the Spaces in Between.
So Of Spaces in Between was conceptualized in 2021 during the third lockdown. And I decided to spend time conceptualizing an art exhibition instead of eating every day. I have always been very interested in the sort of idea of duality because as an artist myself, life and death and life within death and vice versa is very present. And so I wanted to further delve into the idea. But I wanted to work with artists to conceptualize the idea because I think working with different voices would allow to help with the idea of duality. And to further the idea of duality, I tasked each artist to produce two works to play into the duality bit. As somebody from the creative scene here, I've always been curious about how audience get to be part of an experience and the space. So with that, I decided to work with two gallery spaces to allow for the idea to be materialized in a manner where each artwork of the two that the artist will thereafter create would be seen individually. And I was not as adventurous as right now then. So at that point when the idea was conceptualized, it was meant to be two galleries in Penang, not one here and one outside of. Through the many postponements and lockdowns that we had, the idea had to be changed many different times. And once Abud started working on the app, Perk Reality in late of 21 and early 2022, the idea for duality became a bit greater when we realized that now we don't need a second venue to be in Penang anymore. It could be anywhere around the world basically, but I wanted to ground it and just have it be within two cities in the peninsula because it's easier to manage things. So I thereafter spoke to ZHAN Art Space, and they were very nice to allow for the show to be done there. Hin was always my priority here because I think the idea appeases to the demographics and the people that visit Hin. I think they were quite like the sort of concept. So I knew Hin was always going to be my venue in Penang, but I'm also happy that we get to do it in a different city outside of the state. And through technology, we now get to connect both spaces and connect both artworks through Abud's app.
So I'm going to pass the mic to Wanida. So Ivan had mentioned that although he was planning many different things, Hinbus is like top numero uno priority. And I myself know that Hinbus has sort of been at the forefront of like, I'm not going to call it a movement, but I'm going to say movement, of this young artist, exhibitions, as well as music, and of course, within a family-friendly environment. So how did you feel about coming into the Spaces in Between?
I mean, I'm very happy that Ivan always includes us in most of the things that he curates or organizes. Yeah, I think it's an honor to actually be hosting this exhibition and of this particular format of collaboration and especially in between two cities. Yeah, we've always wanted to do something like that. We've had the previous one, which is Tujo, but that was a touring. So to have something going on at two places in one time, and for us to be a part of it is really great.
Right. So now, of course, we're going to pass it on to Desmond. You were telling me a very interesting story last night when we first met about how this came about. It came from one. You were telling me the state of galleries in Kuala Lumpur, which are very profit-based. Not all, most. And then you tend to go more for an exhibition-based business model, which has its pros and cons.
Yep.
But it was the pandemic, and then you had actually met everyone during the Georgetown Festival, and then that's where this sort of materialized?
I think yes. I think that was the first time we actually came up from KL. So me and my sister both run the gallery in KL. We came up to see Ivan's Tujo show. That was where we actually met up with Hinbast and met up with Kenny from Penang Art District. And that sort of clicked for us to do something with Penang and KL. And I think we like to sort of focus on very creative avenues to do different exhibitions. That is our priority, to support the arts in Malaysia. And I think it came very naturally when Ivan shared the idea of any show, basically. And it just interests us to know that we can be part of something that is unconventional. It's out of the box. And I think with the augmented reality, it takes the traditional artwork or exhibition a step further. We are now exhibiting works that both states can see simultaneously, and I think that hasn't been done ever. I think maybe, yeah, but essentially you'll be able to see the KL side versus Penang side, and I think that is very interesting.
Oh, it's definitely interesting indeed. You literally have artists from two cities and two galleries collaborating. I've noticed that Hinbus has been responsible for a lot of artists starting out their artistic career. There are so many stories last night that I've came across. So many people, they were like, I was doing X, Y, Z, and then I had an exhibition here, and then next thing you know, they're full-fledged artists. So you as the manager of the gallery, was that ever the intent, or do you think it was just an organic happenstance?
Things always happen organically here. And yeah.
I see a little smile from Ivan here. Organically driven.
I think this is it's a meeting point for a lot of the creatives here, even of different disciplinaries. So yeah, I think for us, not being a white box, not being a gallery space, helps for the creative to explore. And hence we invite more newer upcoming artists to come here and play, basically. Because sometimes when you dive in straight into white boxes, it gives you already that, I don't know, there's a typical structure to it. So for me, I feel like it's a bit, well, for us as a space, we feel like it's a bit restrictive in a way.
Yeah.
I'm not criticizing the structure, but we just want creatives to really do whatever that they cannot do in those spaces. So we've always encouraged artists to push the boundaries. You know, you want to mix visual and performances, go ahead. You want to, network, go ahead. You want to do crazy things, go ahead. Because this is where you get to explore. That's why we don't call ourselves a gallery space, but rather an exhibition space. Yeah, so any form of exhibition is welcome here.
Wow, very well said. I didn't realize it was more an exhibition space rather than a gallery, but good work on what you've done in helping artists create their careers. Now, Ivan, back to you as a curator. Now, last night during the opening, I actually walked around and looked at the different art pieces, and one thing that I was awestruck with was not only did you have the traditional sketch and painting and realism, but you also had pieces like this, which are out of the ordinary, and each one of these paintings has an augmented reality element to it. And then on the farther side of the exhibition, there's a car horn. So there are these different elements. How do you come up with these things?
Good question.
I'm sorry if I stumped you. I didn't mean to.
I always say I like curating artists because I get the opportunity to pick those that I know would help enhance the idea. So I normally start there, and then placing the trust, which is basically emotional blackmail, onto the artist and say, I trust you to do a good job, and then let them be. And 1 month before deadline, I text them. 2 weeks before deadline, I text them. 1 week after the deadline, I text them, because things happen after. And right after that, through collecting these narratives from these artists about the journey getting to the final work, as well as the final work itself, I get to understand what they're trying to convey better, and how that will play a huge role in the way I thereafter communicate how the show is going to be displayed. And with this show in particular, what I haven't done before for the past close to 6 years of being a curator here is working with 44 artworks, but only 22 get displayed, because there are actually 22 artworks in each space. But besides that physical aspect, I actually have to be incredibly mindful of how I present it as 44 works, because the augmented reality enables you to scan its counterpart and view the space with all the augmented reality works simultaneously with the physical works. So in being mindful of that, I have to really work around how do I present 22 physical and non-physical works. So that was the biggest challenge of this show and putting it up. I had to change my mind every 5 minutes, because every time the physical space worked collectively, it to some degree I thought hindered the way the digital or the augmented reality works played into the show. So there were a lot of back and forth. I spent a good near 2 days trying to troubleshoot that. And because I think playing with the space and the spaces in between, I need to ensure that there are a lot of rooms for people to wander through, and also being mindful of the fact that some of the works are perhaps lower than your typical eye level, and that is also because I target people with who come into the gallery on wheelchairs, children. So different people that have different eye levels, right? So it's also being mindful of that, because my aim, not only with the show, but in general, is just try to make art as accessible as possible. And what I'm really appreciative of what HIN can provide, and that's why this was always my option, is because this place is incredibly accessible to many different people, and in allowing for a space like this to be part of a show, it really furthers my agenda of trying to make art as accessible as possible.
Two cities, two different perspectives. Is it the same in Kuala Lumpur, where networking is the best way to get into it, or do you have to do something out of the ordinary in such a market?
I guess, yes, networking is one, but with us particularly, we like to share stories. So usually what we do is we will ask the artist to tell us a story, as in not just the artwork story, but a story of your exhibition. And if you cannot come up with a narrative per se, then what are you selling? Because there is a difference between just painting beautiful artworks for display versus sharing a beautiful piece of memory or experience, or so that is something we sort of encourage artists to do. to tell a story, to convince people that your art, it's something. And I think that goes back to, I guess, hundreds of years. Artists used to be storytellers. Why do we go to museums to see art? They capture that moment, they capture a particular time. Unfortunately, I think at current times, because we consume so much stuff via social medias and stuff, that we sort of forget certain moments, and artists have the ability to capture that. When they can do that, then it becomes a very good piece of work, because you capture the moment, you capture what people don't see and tend to forget. That is how we encourage our artists to do exhibitions, to sort of go beyond just paintings. Of course, technical is very important, your strokes, your color palette and stuff, but you don't necessarily need to perfect every stroke to paint a good story. So that is our take on how we sort of encourage artists to do works. And I guess as any work, you have to sort of submit your proposals first. That's how we sort of evaluate your ability to carry a show. Yeah.
What does that proposal look like? Is there a 16-point template?
Not really, but the proposal, it's just to show that you've thought about the work, you thought about the exhibition, how you want people to experience. And I think with Ivan mentioned something about being interactive, being it's an experience. That is something we want artists to sort of take a step further as well. You have to, whatever you do, you have to make sure that people understand. If you create an exhibition where people don't understand, then what's the point? Because art is very subjective, and if only you can figure out what you're painting, then it gets lost. The narrative gets lost in between. Yeah. So it's not, and I think sometimes artists feel that because they're an artist, they should just paint whatever they feel, which is true, but ultimately you're painting for an audience, and they also have to sort of understand. And if they don't understand, then maybe you need to do more research on it to translate your work better. Yeah.
Do you have any final words to say to everybody watching in regards to the exhibition? Ivan?
Well, I suppose the show, one of the reasons why I wanted to explore duality is for us to be sort of just be mindful of our surroundings, and to be aware of the duality aspects that surround our daily life. I suppose I can leave people with that nugget.
And of course, due to the immortality of digital content, whether you are watching it and it is within the time frame, do visit the exhibition in Kuala Lumpur. But if you are the audience of the future, thank you for watching this Sesi Seni organized by Penang Art District. My name is Mo Nazrul for Penang Hidden Gems, and we are out. Thank you for watching.